How to monitor Btrfs file system rate for errors. I saw some documentation on a daemon that can execute a program/script for various Btrfs events, but I cannot find it anymore. How can I have a script/program be executed on a drive failure for a Btrfs RAID 1 array? I would like to run a script on any error to act as an early warning for a potentially failing drive, but the actual drive failure is most important. I would like to unmount the file system at that point, if that's not what Btrfs does anyway, and set an alarm.
In addition to the regular logging system, the Btrfs does have a stats command which keeps track of errors, including read, write and corruption/checksum errors per drive. So you could create a simple root cron job. This will check for positive error counts every hour and send you an email. Obviously, you would test such a scenario, for example by causing corruption or removing the grep to verify that the email notification works. In addition, with advanced file systems like Btrfs that have checksumming, it's often recommended to schedule a scrub every couple of weeks to detect silent corruption caused by a bad drive. The B option will keep the scrub in the foreground so that you will see the results in the email cron sends you. Otherwise, it will run in the background and you would have to remember to check the results manually as they would not be in the email. Update improved grep as suggested by Michael Crowlin, thanks. Update 2. Additional notes on scrubbing versus regular read operations. This doesn't just apply to Btrfs only. As pointed out by Johan, the scrub can take many hours depending on the size and type of the array and other factors, even more than a day in some cases. And it is an active scan, it won't detect future errors. The goal of a scrub is to find and fix errors on your drives at that point in time. But as with other RAID systems, it is recommended to schedule periodic scrubs. It's true that a typical I/O operation, like reading a file, does check if the data that was read is actually correct. But consider a simple mirror. If the first copy of the file is damaged, maybe by a drive that's about to die, but the second copy, which is correct, is actually read by Btrfs, then Btrfs won't know that there is corruption on one of the drives. This is simply because the requested data has been received, it matches the checksum Btrfs has stored for this file, so there's no need for Btrfs to read the other copy. This means that even if you specifically read a file that you know is corrupted on one drive, there is no guarantee that the corruption will be detected by this read operation. Now, let's assume that Btrfs only ever reads from the good drive, no scrub is run that would detect the damage on the bad drive, and then the good drive goes bad as well. The result would be data loss. At least Btrfs would know which files are still correct and will still allow you to read those. Of course, this is a simplified example. In reality, Btrfs won't always read from one drive and ignore the other. But the point is that periodic scrubs are important because they will find and fix errors that regular read operations won't necessarily detect. Faulted drives. Since this question is quite popular, I'd like to point out that this monitoring solution is for detecting problems with possibly bad drives, e.g., dying drive causing errors but still accessible. On the other hand, if a drive is suddenly gone, disconnected or completely dead rather than dying and producing errors, it would be a faulted drive. A ZFS would mark such a drive as faulted. Unfortunately, Btrfs may not realize that a drive is gone while the file system is mounted. As pointed out in this mailing list entry from September 2015, it's possible that this has been patched. The difference is that we have code to detect a device not being present at mount, we don't have code yet to detect it dropping on a mounted file system. Why having proper detection for a device disappearing does not appear to be a priority, I have no idea, but that is a separate issue from mount behavior. This URL. There'd be tons of error messages in BMESC by that time, so grepping BMESC might not be reliable. For a server using Btrfs, it might be an idea to have a custom checked cron job that sends an alert if at least one of the drives in the RAID array is gone, i.e., not accessible anymore.
As a Btrfs progs version 4.11.1 stats has the check option that will return non-zero if any of the values are not zero, removing the need for the regex.
I would not rely on the stats command for error notification because this command returns no error if a drive suddenly goes away. You can test it by disconnecting a SATA cable or pulling a drive, not recommended with an important file system. After a reboot, Btrfs shows missing drives, but that may be too late.
There doesn't appear to be a daemon or utility that officially reports Btrfs events for user handling. The closest alternative is to monitor the system log for messages from Btrfs and react accordingly. This URL. The above link provides more details for configuring a script, SCC package on Debian or SCC, designed for general-purpose log monitoring to act on unexpected log messages concerning Btrfs. It also depends on having a regularly scheduled scrub of the file system to check for bitrot and emit log entries as a preemptive measure. Below is an excerpt specific to the SCC script. How to configure SCC event correlator to report Btrfs file system errors, warnings after installing sec.pl, apt-get install SCC on Debian, or this URL. Install the two config files below. This is not foolproof, it relies on a regex of known messages that are OK, and reports all unknown ones. You can extend the forward-looking negative regex as needed.
Sounds like a task for system monitoring. There exists a check which implements the Nagios plugin API called check_Btrfs. As you can see in the source code, it has a function called check_dev_stats which checks for device stats and will go critical if any of the values is non-zero. It also checks for allocation issues. What remains unclear is how the check behaves if one disk is absent or goes offline. PS, the plugin is packaged in Debian, monitoring plugins Btrfs.
If you watched the whole event, since there in the